Welcome back, everybody. So, today we are doing problem number 2 for our series, that is valid parenthesis. So, let us go through this problem. Let us read the problem statement. So, they have told us that they have given us a string which contains of these characters, that is the brackets, first bracket, second bracket, and third bracket. So, these are the things which are given to us. So, in our string, we have been given like this, suppose this. Now they have told us, is this a valid parenthesis? So every close bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. Okay. So every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. So every bracket should be closed. So this is a valid parenthesis, this one. Whereas this is not. This is not a valid parenthesis, whereas this is a valid parenthesis. So this is the problem statement which we have to do. Now they have told us that three things are given to us. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of bracket. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order, and every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. Okay, so these are the examples given to us. So you can see this is correct. This is correct because every closing bracket has the same type of opening bracket, whereas this is not correct. We are having the first bracket as the open bracket, whereas we are having third bracket as the closing bracket. So this is incorrect. So how can we do this problem? Think think for it a bit and then come back. Pause the video, think for it and come back. Okay. So I think you have got the chance to think about it. It is intuitive that whenever we are given such a problem as whether these parentheses are valid or not, like this type of questions, so we always use something called a stack. Okay, we use something called a stack. Now in this problem, how can we use stack? So suppose this is our example. This is a string and this is our example. So how can we use stack in this case? So I will tell there are two ways basically. There are basically two ways. What are those ways? First is, since this is an opening bracket and this is a closing bracket, so you can keep track of everything using only this opening bracket. That is a method. Whereas also you can do is you can input in a stack the opening bracket, whereas when you see a closing bracket you can check the pop, you can pop the element, you can check the element which is at the top of the stack, and then you can pop it out. So this is another method. Let me explain to you both of these methods. So let us take a string, let us take this string. Okay, now I have a stack with me. Now I will go through this string. Okay, I will go through this string. I will iterate through this string. So the first element is this one. So this is an opening bracket. So if we see an opening bracket, we do not do anything. We just put it in the stack. So I put it in the stack. Next is this element. Next is this element, this character. So when I see a closing bracket of any kind, I check whether this closing bracket has an appropriate opening bracket at the top of the stack. So the top of the stack is this one. So I check with this, and since these two are a pair, I pop it out. And at the end, I will check whether the stack is empty or not. If the stack is empty, that means the parenthesis is valid. Okay, that means the parenthesis is valid. Another method is that the method which we will do today is that this is the stack. So this is the string, and we have a stack like this. What we do is, see, let us think of it in a more deeper way. They have given to us in this question statement, you can see they have given to us that opening brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. This line, opening brackets must be closed by the same type brackets. So what does this thing mean? Okay, what does this thing mean? That suppose I have this bracket, what I am really finding is this bracket, right? I have an opening bracket. So what I'm actually trying to find is closing bracket so that I can have this pair. right? So what I can do is, while iterating through this array, whenever I see an opening bracket, I can put its corresponding close bracket in the stack. Understood? For example, let me take another example. Suppose I have this thing. So whenever I see an opening bracket, what I do is I put the corresponding closing bracket in the stack. Then when I see a closing bracket, what I have to do is I just have to see whether this character at the first position is matching the character at st dot top. That is the top of the stack. If these are similar, then I pop this out. At the end of the problem, we will have an empty stack. That means the parenthesis is valid. Okay. Okay. Let's do a dry run with this example. S equals to. Let us do a dry run for this example. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have a stack here. So at first, I see an opening bracket. Okay. I see an opening bracket. What I do is I put its corresponding closing bracket in the stack. Then I see a closing bracket. I check whether this character is similar to that character at the top of the stack. Yes, it is similar. So I pop it out. So our stack becomes empty at this time. Now I move on to this element. I see an opening bracket. So I put this in the stack. Then I see a closing bracket. I check whether this character is similar to the character at the top of the stack. Yes, it is similar. So I pop this out. Okay. Then again, I see an opening bracket. So I put the corresponding closing bracket in the stack. And then when I see this closing bracket, I check whether this is similar to that at the top of the stack, and then I pop it out. Suppose if there was a mismatch. If there was a mismatch. So stack equals to like this, something like this. So I see an opening bracket. I put the corresponding closing bracket in the stack. I see a closing bracket. I check whether this is similar to the top of the stack. If yes, it is similar, so I pop it out. So our stack becomes empty. Then I see an opening bracket. I put its corresponding closing bracket in the stack. Okay. Now I see another close bracket. Okay, another closing bracket. Now I check whether this character is similar to that at the top of the stack. No, it is not similar. In that case, I return false. Okay. So this is how we will do the problem. So let's take another example, that suppose I have only one closing bracket. Suppose in a problem statement I have only a closing bracket. Now what will happen? I only have a closing bracket. I have nothing to check. Right? I have nothing to check with this. Only a closing bracket. If you think very carefully, in our normal iteration of the string, we should not encounter an empty stack, right? For example, in this example, so not this one. In this example, when we are iterating this string, we should not have encountered an empty stack. At the first, we have an opening bracket. So we are already putting something in our stack. So after this if check, after the if else if check, these checks. So in the for loop, in the for loop, when I have this kind of checks, that if else if, at the end here I have if else if, all the things I have. At the end, if the stack is empty, at the end of within our for loop, at the end, that means I have not found an opening bracket. In the entire string, I have not found an opening bracket. That means it automatically is not a valid parenthesis. So I will return false directly. If we do not find an opening bracket, we do not expect to find a closing bracket. That is not possible. So in this case, we just return false. Okay, so this was the problem. So let's now code it. At first, let's initialize a stack. So stack character equals to new stack. Okay. Now I will iterate the string for int I equals to 0 as an s dot length. Okay. Now I will check if this character. So I will take a character if this character equals to the first opening bracket, the first bracket, and the opening of the first bracket, in that case, st dot push, I will put the closing bracket. Else, if similarly, I will do it in the case of all the brackets. Now is a check. Else if, so whenever I'm iterating, if I do not find any element when I'm iterating as the first bracket, that means the string is already invalid. So else if the stack is empty, so st dot is empty, then I will return false. Or if st dot pop not equals to ch, if st dot pop not equals to ch means the current character. Okay, that means the current character means this thing. The current character, for example, I have this thing, so s equals to this thing. So whenever I'm encountering an opening bracket, I'm putting a closing bracket. So whenever I encounter closing bracket, if this thing st dot pop, this is, sorry, this is character, so this is ch, and this is st dot top actually. So whenever we're doing popping it, we are getting this element itself. So if these two are not similar, in that case I will return false. Okay, if these two are not similar, in that case I will return false. And since I'm already executing st dot pop, the stack after one iteration, if it is valid, it becomes empty. Okay, just a second.